Hello, hello. Hello, 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 beautiful people. We are excited to be back with you here for another Career Gems for the Journey Live with Leah Murphy. I am on a tear right now. Like, there's so many exciting things that are happening that I am doing the work every day to be able to funnel my energy into the places that are most useful and most productive. And being here with you right now is one of the most useful, productive uses of my energy right now. So thank you so much for everybody who is joining me live. If you are here with me live, please do take a moment to drop your city in the chat. If you drop your city in the chat, then we can acknowledge you. We know who's feeling the vibes. We know who's receiving this experience real time. And I got to tell you that the past couple of lives, I've had phenomenal people come and join me live and then follow up for additional dialogue after the fact. So that just makes my day as somebody who gets to talk into a camera for the majority of the time. But now to be able to have more in-person live interaction with folks who are joining us on YouTube or on LinkedIn has just absolutely made this an even better experience for me. So thank you for those who have joined us live and that are here now. And also thank you if you're listening on the replay. I love that for you. Absolutely do. The replay has been doing amazing things. The shares for the replay have been up. So I really appreciate folks who take this experience as more as a podcast, a passive listening experience, and they check in on it after it's been recorded, and then you catch that replay. We post the replay every Wednesday, immediately the following day after we do the live. So you can always take advantage of that if you're not able to join us. But we appreciate those who are here with us live. Okay. So the last time that we all were together, I talked extensively about being misunderstood at work and what being misunderstood can feel like and how that can manifest in our day-to-day. And I talked about it at work, but this is something that happens in our personal lives, in our professional lives, in our social experiences that are just one-off. And I wanted to make sure that I talked about it because oftentimes being misunderstood can feel like a problem that we have to address ourselves. And we do a lot of work on clearer communication and focusing on concise language, or we may focus a lot of energy on tone and volume in our voice or context when we're sending emails and communication. And what that reminded me of is absolutely those skills are necessary and very, very important. But as we build those skills, we also have to build the muscle of being okay with being misunderstood. And that's why I want to make sure that I bring it up. So we're going to build from being misunderstood, and we're going to go on a bit of a walk. We're going to do a bit of a series here because we're going to go from talking about being misunderstood, which I think is going to be a consistent theme going through in 2025, especially in this first quarter, because I think people choose to misunderstand us and weaponize that sometimes in the workplace or weaponize misunderstanding each other in other areas of life. And I think building up that muscle to understand that you're not going crazy and the experience that you may be having with someone could be tied to their choice to misunderstand you. So first, I want to make sure I give a shout out to Luz Lopez Stewart. She's here with us from LaGrange, Georgia. Welcome. We appreciate you being with us live. So Luz is riding with us because she rode with us last week when we were here live. So I appreciate you being here, Luz. It absolutely makes my day. But before I get into the topic that we're going to talk about today, which is moving from being misunderstood to recognizing what is conflict, and there's healthy conflict, productive conflict, or unhealthy, unproductive conflict. It looks like A. Neal is also here with me. Appreciate you being here, A. Neal. He's joining us from Sicklerville, New Jersey, which I actually used to live in Sicklerville, New Jersey once upon a time, many, many years again. So being able to be in community with folks who are in my old neighborhood, in my old stomping grounds, always feels like the right thing. So welcome. We appreciate you joining us live. But before I go into that, I want to make sure that I do my housekeeping. You guys know I like to run fast and get directly into the content. And my team sent me explicit notes of things that I need to make sure I cover today. So the first thing that I need to cover is it's February. We are walking into Black History Month. Shout out to all of us who have celebrate Black History 365 days a year, because that's the category that I find myself falling into. But it is Black History Month. We are in February. So welcome to a Black History Month experience. here with Career Gems for the Journey that is going to be a good one. We're going to talk about things that are going to be valuable to a broad audience, but we're also going to pull out some things that are specifically what I'm hearing and understanding from Black professionals in navigating corporate spaces. So ride with us all throughout the month of February. And then the next part that my team made sure that I reminded you all of so that I don't get in trouble is we are hosting the Career and Care Summit. The Career and Care Summit is a first of its kind experience that we are bringing live and in person in Philadelphia on March 15th, 2025. And we're hosting it at the Community College of Philadelphia. Now, the Career and Care Summit is completely motivated to bring together women, professional women who are navigating the second act of life. And that second act of life can look different for all of us, but we know that we're experiencing some things in our professional life, our personal life, and our physical body that are different from what it would have been 15 or more years ago. So Career and Care Summit is our effort to fill the gap to meet the needs of professional women who are in that 35 to 55-year-old range, because we believe that those individuals have a unique set of needs, and we want to make sure that we're speaking to their needs, speaking to their pain points, and supporting them directly. So we want to invite you, if you're under the sound of my voice, to join us in person at the Career and Care Summit in Philadelphia on March 15th, 2025. And that'll be in celebration of Women's History Month. So we'll transition from Black History Month, which I fully participate in, into Women's History Month, which I also fully participate in. And you can grab your tickets at gemsforthejourney.org/events-list. So you can just head to Gems for the Journey, drop on our drop-down bar. You'll see the events tab. You can grab your tickets there. Tickets for the first round have already been doing amazing things. My team gave me the latest update. We are more than 50% of the tickets sold for the event. So you don't want to wait, because we believe that over the next couple of weeks, as you guys continue to hear our updates and our announcements, and you see our speaker posts, and you get to get a better sense of what you're going to experience at the summit, we promise it's going to be a phenomenal experience. And we are going to, at some point, have to close off the ticket sales, and we believe that it's going to be sold out. So take full advantage. Consider this your sign that if you're under the sound of my voice and you're hearing what I'm saying, either on the day of the recording or soon thereafter, to grab your ticket to the Career and Care Summit on March 15th in Philadelphia. We'll be doing that live. If you can't participate in the summit, or it's not a fit for you, and you are an ally as a man who knows young or capable women who are professionals navigating their second act of life, gift them a ticket. Take advantage of the opportunity to facilitate them getting access to the summit. Or if you are not in the tri-state area, if you're not in the Philadelphia Mid-Atlantic area, you can still grab a ticket to the summit, and you can sponsor someone else from this region to join, to be a part of what we know is going to be a phenomenal experience. So any way that you can be connected to this event, we believe it's going to be transformational for everybody who joins us in the room. We're super grateful for our sponsor partners, Icelandic Provisions, Peacock, which is a subsidiary of NBC, Saxby's Coffee. So we're really excited that we have some corporate sponsors that have stepped in to really help us bring the summit to life. And we'll have more sponsorship announcements coming out in the next few weeks, closing out the month of February. So join us. Absolutely, you want to be here. If there's anything that I've ever said on this live or lives in the past, or the Career Gems for the Journey podcast that has resonated with you, and you thought, oh man, I would love an opportunity to know more or to have a live experience with those individuals and other like-minded individuals that is curated for me, specifically designed for professional women like me, this is the time. Consider this your sign. So we got our housekeeping out of the way. I'm going to make sure I give you guys a reminder at the end, but we talked about being misunderstood, and now I want to transition it into conflict. Oh, Ansar, it's amazing. Okay, thank you so much for letting me know. Ansar Neal is with us, and he made sure that I got his name right, and I appreciate that. keep me honest. Solomon Rogers is also here with me live. I appreciate you joining me here, Solomon. It's great to have you all with me live. So I'm not going to be before you long. So I wanted to transition from focusing on being misunderstood and what that experience is, and then navigating conflict. And I actually have been following a couple of amazing speakers on the topic of conflict, and I am going to tag them potentially in the show notes. All of them are not on LinkedIn, they're on other platforms, whether it's books that they offered or talks that they've given, podcasts that they've been on. I want to make sure that I give credit when credit is due because it has the research that I've been doing as of late has really helped to influence my perspective on conflict. And I've had my own lived experience. So I'll tell you guys a quick story that I think may be illustrative. So I joined an organization as a young engineer, and as a young engineer, was tasked with a specific set of deliverables. And that deliverables came directly from the vice president of the organization. So I go and I'm gung ho, I'm excited, I'm looking forward to the opportunities, and I'm uncovering, I'm turning over stones, and I'm using my previous professional experience because I was hired in as an experienced hire. And the time that I was sitting in a meeting and got asked a question, what's my feedback or what's my perspective on a specific topic, which was a long legacy topic that the organization had been struggling with, I had in my youthful exuberance, 3 areas that I thought that we should work on. And I listed those 3 areas. I gave examples. I spoke to my previous experience, and I pulled out some of the tools that I had used and some results that we had been able to accomplish. Immediately after I finished speaking, another individual who was in the room, also an engineer, essentially one level above me in that organization, slammed his notebook closed, stood up, and left the meeting. And as he's leaving the meeting and walking out, he comments something to the effect of, she thinks she's so smart. So meanwhile, I was confused, right? I was confused because I had been asked a question. It wasn't even like I had raised my hand and, forced my opinion upon people. So I am sitting in this experience real time and looking at, my peers in the room and other leaders in the room to get a better understanding of like, how do we respond to this? What I recognize, and this is an extreme example, but I recognize is in that moment, that individual was feeling threatened by whatever it was that I shared. And I wasn't clear on how to pinpoint what they were threatened by, but the response to what I had said, although he wasn't mentioned or there was no intentional direction towards him, because I really didn't even know him that well at the time, but that was his response. So what I recognized in that moment is not only did he potentially misunderstand me, but he was willing to start essentially a very public and visible conflict with the idea or with me directly. And what I had to then do is make a certain set of choices because there is a choice to go ahead and pursue a dialogue and see if you can settle and get a better understanding, seek to understand, right? Lead with curiosity, which I think in some circumstances is absolutely, a lever to be able to pull. But there's other times where people's choice to misunderstand you and then develop a conflict is beneficial to them stealing attention or bringing the spotlight back to them. It's kind of the equivalent of a child throwing a temper tantrum and hoping that that sways the decision of the parent, right? But we would assume that those things don't happen in the workplace, right? Or I assumed, I wouldn't say we. I had assumed that the workplace was not the place for that, and that the experiences that I was going to have in that time or going forward were going to be under this assumption of we're all adults, we all have the best interests or company motivation at heart, and if we believe that there are great ideas, the idea is to let the ideas clash and to challenge the concept or the idea or the intention behind the concept, not behind the individual. So to make such a public display and create what is, concern or chaos in a room full of folks who are, all otherwise capable leaders, then put me in a position where it's like, well, what am I supposed to do now? Is it my fault? Is there immediate work that I have to do? Is this character something that happens all the time with this individual? So you go down sometimes this roadmap of questions. And what I wanted to do instead in this example, and I'm just looking at my note here, in this example is for you to think about how do people potentially weaponize misunderstanding you? And then that potentially can create conflict. But then how do you recognize and identify that conflict is not for you to confront, right? Conflict and candor are healthy and can be productive in organization when there is a mutual respect or when you can assume positive intent from the other individual. So I'm going to say that again. Conflict and candor can be healthy and productive in an organization where there's mutual respect and you can assume positive intent. And I'll take it a step further where there is psychological safety. So if you are in an organization or if you're experiencing if you're experiencing conflict with someone that you can't guarantee that there is mutual respect, or you cannot guarantee that there is an assumption of positive intent, or where there is not psychological safety for both parties, that's where damage can be done. And that's where I find often people lean to a conflict avoidant method of leading teams or solving business problems because those three things are not in place. Can't assume positive intent, can't assume mutual respect, absolutely can assume that there's psychological safety for all parties. So if you are in an organization right now and you're trying to decide how do I move forward, I'm navigating a conflict with a coworker, or I'm navigating a conflict or seeing something on the horizon, those are the three things that I would ask you to check in for yourself, check in with yourself on before you take a next step and decide, is there some way that I can address said conflict or address friction or tension that I have or that I'm not noticing and recognizing. If you can't assume those three things, then I would suggest you reevaluate whether or not this conflict should be addressed by you. And I want to make sure that we think about noticing that the messenger in some conflict situations is the trigger for the other person. So I don't believe that I personally did anything wrong in what I was sharing. I believe that potentially me as a messenger and the message that I sent in that moment would have been tied to a trigger for that individual. And there's no way that I would have been the right person to then go and resolve whatever that conflict or tension was. Because obviously it wasn't an environment where there was mutual respect, because you don't demonstrate mutual respect by storming out of a meeting. I obviously did not have, I can't assume positive intent leaving, coming out of that. Maybe I would have gone into that discussion feeling like positive intent is on the table, so let's go forward. And I certainly didn't feel like there was psychological safety when, the mutterings of that individual were essentially to confront what I had done or said, agnostic of what everyone else in the room had brought up or what they had shared at that time. So I want to make sure that, one, we understand that being misunderstood in life in general is something that will happen. And we have to decide how much time, effort, and energy we can invest in helping someone to understand what we're doing or what decision we're making. And we have to decide, is it worthwhile for us to help them to understand? So it's two places. Are they intentionally misunderstanding, or is there a misunderstanding that I can clear up that I'm responsible for, and my process to address that misunderstanding will look like this, right? We'll talk about whatever that next step would be. Or has that person chosen to misunderstand? And because they've chosen to misunderstand, that creates a conflict or a tension inside of the relationship or lack thereof. And then you have to decide, are you the right person to address that conflict? I think conflict and candor can be healthy and productive if we have those three things in place. We can assume positive intent, we have psychological safety, and there's an environment of mutual respect. Then it's healthy, because then you get to the best innovative ideas, you collaborate, you work together, you bring your very best to the discussion, you leave there feeling like the solution was co-created and that it's really going to drive the business forward. But without those three things, I think you should bring in someone else to help you navigate your perception of that conflict and to work through what are the right actions in order that I should take in order to do that. So now I just want to make sure that I remind us that oftentimes leaders don't have the ability to be fully transparent with people who are inside of their organization about what they're struggling with or conflicts they may be identifying or problems or challenges. And oftentimes there's a perception that leaders are supposed to know everything. They're supposed to already have the solution in mind. And we know in reality that there are often times where leaders are figuring out as they're going, just like many people in the organization. So if you are a leader who's in an organization and you're trying to figure out what makes sense for me to attack, what makes sense for me to address, what makes sense for me to empower people to lead or figure out on their own, that's why asking those kinds of questions as a leader will then allow you to bring in the right support so that you can do that in an area of complete transparency, vulnerability, and you can get to a solution that is fit and aligned to meet the needs of the business going forward. And that's really where executive coaching can be transformational for those individuals. So I didn't even see in starting at conflict and being misunderstood, I started to hear directly, as I'm doing more research, that leaders don't have the ability to navigate and ideate or iterate in conversations with people because they have to maintain this persona of, I am the leader. I know more than the people on my team. I would encourage more leaders to be more vulnerable and transparent about where their skills and weaknesses are and to hire people who can help them bolster in areas where they are not strong. But I also encourage you to have a thought partner, a collaborator, where you can put all the ideas on the table and someone who understands your business, understands your objectives to help support you in navigating some of these situations or in creating psychological safe environments so that your team can successfully navigate these types of conflicts. Ultimately, as the leader, your job is not to know everything. Your job is to facilitate your team being able to show up as their very best. So what I would do looking back is I would encourage, for my example specifically, I would encourage the leader of that team, vice president, whoever it was, to create an environment of psychological safety and set clear expectations for mutual respect amongst the team. And the positive intent is something that leaders can't set in place, but individuals can interpret for themselves. But what the leader can do is to set an expectation of psychological safety and set an expectation of mutual respect. And then when that is not demonstrated, they can address that behavior. And that is how you bring it full circle. Setting expectations, creating an environment where the expectations can be met, and then holding the individuals accountable. So I want to make sure that we give ourselves an opportunity to build in these skill sets that are not tied to specific business goals or objectives. These are nuanced, soft skills that I think are really important as we build the muscle of learning how to be misunderstood and not having it be impacting our decision making or our confidence in ourselves or causing some other damage when we're being misunderstood. And then allowing us to say some conflict is necessary, it's productive, and it can be healthy. It actually can be beneficial when those three things are in place. And helping to evaluate, are those three things are in place? And if they're not, then how do we build a coalition or how do we escalate such that those things can be in place for ourselves and we can create those environments for people elsewhere in the organization. So everyone has the potential to show up and be their best. Experienced hires and long tenure people who have been in the organization, that it's a broad swath, that women, differently abled people, Black, brown, otherwise people have the assumption that they can come into these environments and experience psychological safety and mutual respect. Because those are the organizations that are going to win in business. Those are organizations that are going to be successful. Those are the organizations that are going to see results because they're getting the best out of the people that they have in their organizations. So I'm going to leave it there, and we are going to pick this back up the next time we get together, because we're going to go from misunderstood to conflict to understanding whether or not folks have the tools, the capabilities to navigate conflict with you. Because you might be prepared to navigate conflict and you might be able to come on the other side and get a positive result. But the other individual that you might be in this conflict negotiation with may not have those skills. And I want to make sure that we think about this holistic experience so we're not putting ourselves in a position that is not going to benefit us on the long term, professionally or day to day in the workplace. So that's where we're going next. I appreciate you all for riding with me. I want to make sure you all know you can take advantage of joining our newsletter. Our newsletter is fire. It's popping. It comes out every month, just once a month. It's not spammy at all. So it takes an opportunity to kind of cultivate some of these ideas and things that we shared for the live, books that we find to be perspective shifting reads, all the things, events tied to Gems for the Journey, and any update that you want to know, it comes to the newsletter first. So take advantage, join our newsletter, just drop your email at gemsforthejourney.org. And then join us at the Career and Care Summit. It's going to be a phenomenal experience. Our advisors and our sponsors are I'm biased, but they are the best. And we want to invite all of you who are under the sound of my voice to join us in person at the Career and Care Summit on March 15th in Philadelphia at the Community College of Philadelphia, or to sponsor someone else to join us in person. Because we really believe that this is exactly what this region needs, but it's also exactly what professional women who are navigating the second act of life are looking for, and we want to help to fill that gap. So I appreciate you riding with me. I will see you the very next time. We'll be here next Tuesday on LinkedIn and YouTube Live. Until then, make your journey work for you.